Welcome back to the channel. I am the Sunday Pilot and welcome to part 2 in our Around the World Low Cost Challenge, where I attempt to fly east around the world from London Luton back to London Luton only using low cost airlines and a different airline in each flight. So in this episode we're starting where we left off in the last. We're at Krakow International Airport in southern Poland, and today we're on board the PMDG 737-800 in the livery of Fly Dubai. And yes guys, that means we're flying to Dubai. Remember, the schedule that I'm using is the real world Fly Dubai schedule for the 1st of June 2022. And because these flights were flown well in advance of June 2022, I'm using real world weather in active sky from the same date in 21. For all intents and purposes, Fly Dubai are the low-cost wing of Emirates, and in their fleet they have got 737s made up of 737-800 next gens and of course the new MAX variant. And therefore you're probably asking, why am I flying a 737-800 and not a MAX 8 on this route? Well, it's very simple folks. PMDG seem to be concentrating on developing their aircraft for Microsoft Flight Simulator right now, and therefore their development of the NGXu and therefore the 737 MAX variant seems to have halted. And that means we're stuck on the 737-800 for this virtual flight between Krakow and of course Dubai. Okay, jumping straight into sim brief, we'll be departing on runway 25 here in Krakow. And that of course was the same runway that I landed on in the previous episode where I flew from London Luton in an Aerosoft Airbus A321 in the livery of Wizz Air. That was a pretty awful landing, so I hope to do a lot better in this episode. Anyway, in this episode we're routing southeast out of Krakow and Poland, heading towards the Black Sea, entering Turkish airspace and then Iranian airspace, and then descending towards Dubai, where we're expecting to be landing on runway 30 right. And based on the June 2022 schedule for this flight between Krakow and Dubai, it's going to be a nighttime landing. So let's jump back into the left seat and the cockpit and get this flight to Dubai underway.
Clearance delivery, Sky Dubai 1788, this type Boeing 737, IFR Dubai, ready to copy. Sky Dubai 1788 is cleared to Dubai, airport is filed. Fly runway heading, climb and maintain, altitude 10,000. Departure frequency is 121.075, clock 0603.
As we taxi this PMDG 737-800 to runway 25 here at Krakow, it's time to tell you a little bit about the scenery that I've got installed here in Prepared 3D version 4.5. As you will know from the previous episode, I'm using Drzewiecki Design's Krakow. And as I also said in the previous episode, I really love their scenery for Prepared, which covers not just the airport, but the surrounding area as well. Right, this was a very short taxi, and it's time for me to shut up.
Approaching 25. Approaching 25.
Krakow Tower, Sky Dubai 1788, ready to go. Runway 25, IFR Dubai. Sky Flight 1788, cleared for takeoff. Runway 25, surface wind 0265.
On runway
As you could see, our departure from Krakow was pretty uneventful, despite those trees at the runway boundary looking pretty scary as we approached them at over 150 miles an hour. Anyway, after a couple of left turns, we're heading in a southeasterly direction towards the Black Sea, where I'll come back to you a little bit later with hopefully some interesting aspects of this flight down to Dubai. As we approached the northern Black Sea coast of Turkey, we encountered rather a large thunderstorm. However, looking at the weather radar on the MFD, it looked like the flight path in our FMC would avoid the worst of it. However, turbulence was the biggest factor I faced on my journey through Turkey en route to the Iranian border. As we continued our flight between Krakow and Dubai over Iranian airspace, the centre fuel tank in our Boeing 737-800 was starting to run low. Discussing the procedures in the real world with the real Airbus pilot, who used to fly Boeing 737s for a large European low-cost airline, who explained the procedures to me. So, you simply wait until the low fuel warning comes on for the centre tank, and then you simply switch off the pumps to the centre tank. Of course, on the Airbus, this happens automatically. As expected, we'd be planning an approach into runway 30 right at Dubai, and the scenery that I've got installed for Dubai comes from Fly Tampa, and that means that as Dubai rebooted for FSX, unlike the majority of their fantastic scenery products, Fly Tampa never re-released their Dubai scenery for prepared 3D version 4 and above. As you will see, the scenery works very well in the 64-bit version of prepared. The only challenge that I previously had was SOD compatibility and of course GSX compatibility. However, the fantastic team at Inbuilds resolved this, and they've placed a free upgrade file on their website which delivers full GSX compatibility along with SOD jetways for the fantastic airport at Dubai. Of course, because this is a low-cost airline, we'll not be parking at a jetway this evening. Instead, we will be parking on a remote stand where the passengers will be bussed to the airport terminal. So let's see if I can redeem myself from the last landing on board the Airbus A321 at Krakow, which was a pretty poor attempt even by my own standards.
Approaching decision height. 200. Minimums. 100.
Welcome to Dubai International Airport in the United Arab Emirates. This is the second time I've flown into this airport on the channel, and the second time I've flown into this airport at night on the channel. And what I will say is flying at nighttime simply doesn't give you the true experience of the Fly Tampa scenery here for Dubai. So maybe in a future video I'll take a closer look at this scenery in daylight. Anyway, I'm going to take that landing. I do think it was okay for an amateur virtual pilot like myself. So getting back to Around the World Challenge, we're going to be here at Dubai for only a few hours before jumping into an Airbus A320 and continuing southeast as we make our way around the world. So you know what to do if you want to continue to follow this series and of course the channel. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and press the bell icon for future notifications of videos on this channel. Thank you so much for watching, and wherever you're flying in your virtual world, don't forget to fly safe.